if you watched my video on Harsetti formerly, you probably know that Harsetti, since being released, was not what we initially thought it was, and I apologize for that. We thought it was likely going to be a credible source in terms of what Harsetti was going to do, but it wasn't the case. However, that actually doesn't change how crazy she is, but for a different reason. Let me explain. First and foremost, Harsetti is a 124 base speed character, and though this is pretty good and great stats for her initially, we have to talk about her kit because this is her speed's actually very important. And the reason is because for her skill 2, as you read here, the law of Skugheim, it says at the start of the battle, speed of the caster is fixed going forward, and speed of all heroes except for the caster is limited to a maximum of 90% of the caster's speed. On the caster's turn, combat readiness of increased effects of all heroes is not applied. The law of Skugheim only applies to PvP. Now, the reason why this is so impactful, of course, because this is Leo. If you guys haven't played Summoner's War, there is a character that does something similar to this, and long story short, this is very, very impactful, and not only impactful, but detrimental to a lot of players that want to play speed. Now, if you are someone that is slower or is struggling with fighting against players that play fast, this is a great sounding character, right? Except not really, because actually this character is way more annoying than you think to play around in general, because it doesn't just say that the speed of the caster is fixed for the enemy heroes. This is for all heroes on your own team. Now, you might be a little bit confused by what this means or what this actually entails, so let me break this down. In terms of Harsetti's actual turn, she, again, only allows allies and enemies to be 90% of her speed, and that means that, let's say you are 300 speed on Harsetti, the fastest roughly that you'd be able to, have a character is 270, for instance. That's kind of annoying if you want to play anyone that, again, speed tunes properly in terms of being picked with Harsetti. And now, again, there's going to be speed RNG to this. There's going to be adjustments, and you kind of lock yourself out of some options depending on what you're trying to do, both as the Harsetti picker and as Harsetti's enemy. Now, let me, despite all this, let me be clear. This is going to be a game warping character, and there is going to be a way to play around this so that you can manipulate the caster's speed or your team's speed so that this is actually very impactful. However, that's not even talking about the combat readiness effect of all allies is not applied on her turn. It's obviously very difficult to play around things like these, both on, every single side of the field, and this is very concerning because I think, and again, this is just my prediction right now, that epicseven has truly released one of the most genuinely annoying, frustrating characters to play around, period. Now, again, I understand that I understand that speaking as someone that is more speed focused, this is great for players that feel like there's nothing that they can do against cleavers. They feel like speed is unattainable and that everything is hopeless. I understand that. However, when it starts affecting your own units, if you thought that it was bad before, let's say that you have Harsetti and then you want to play someone like ML Politis, or you have someone like Knockwall, well, the fastest they're going to be is 260, 270, and you're going to start affecting speed RNG of your units, or you're going to be subjected to speed RNG. It's very annoying and quite frustrating, especially if you're not going to build speed on Harsetti. So if you are someone that's trying to, let's say, build base speed Harsetti, well, now everyone's going to be, again, 90% of 124, and you're kind of in a weird spot. So if you are going to be using Harsetti, basically what it means is you're still going to have to build her at a certain speed, but anyone that's below that speed is subject to a bunch of random nonsense like speed RNG from each other. You don't know who's going to go first. All these different things are quite frustrating, and you're going to have to basically guess or predict what speed everyone's going to be in order for you to, I guess, kind of make an educated guess for who's going to go, and that's quite frustrating. But okay, what about the rest of her kit, right? Let's talk about her S3. Now, her S3 is very impactful, and it does seem pretty good if you are someone that, is trying to maybe play more aggressively or play more speed focused, ironically, because what it reads is that it is an attack all enemy, AoE ability that decreases buff durations by 2 turns. Very good, by the way, in terms of stripping. And it has a 100% chance to inflict unable to be counterattacked and unable to be buffed for 2 turns. Now, this penetrates the enemy's defense, and when the focus is full, it consumes it and increases damage dealt. Now, she, based on the leaks, she was touted as a health-based character, and she still does that. However, it's different now. She does do more damage, and this skill does scale off of her max HP, but now it's a full pen. She doesn't cleanse herself with injury like she did formerly, which again was a scary precedent. But now she, she unbuffables, makes you unable to counterattack, and again strips you. Now this, of course, is good. I would say it's not a bad skill by any means, especially once you take a look at how much damage it does. It does roughly do something like 5.3k, I believe. Yeah, roughly 5.4k, I believe, which again is quite impactful. But ultimately, the thing that's impactful here is, or the thing that you'll care about here, is the counterattack and the unable to be buffed. Now, this is no seal. This is no block, as we had originally thought. This isn't attack downing the enemies. So therefore, while it is good, okay, this is something that you can find in some other characters. Ashmancer or Elena, you could be unbuffable by every character basically in the game now, because that's like one of the most common buffs in the game. But all right, what about her S1? Now, her S1 is a kind of cool looking skill, and it does have some interesting names. They use en passant, which is funny. Okay, anyways, so what the skill does is that it is a single target at first defense break that increases up to a 75% chance of defense break, and this is also a health scaling attack. But when it's your turn, you also cast en passant, which is an AoE attack with a after soul burn 100%, otherwise 75% chance to defense or decrease attack for 1 turn. And again, this scales with max HP. Now, if you didn't catch it as well, this also decreases defense by 2 turns, which makes this one of the more impactful soul burn S1s that we've seen thus far, especially since she's obviously going to be played as a slow character. But ultimately, this character is, when you put everything together, not that crazy sounding for anti-cleaving specifically, except for her S2. Now, if you're curious as well, having this 5.3k or 5.4k attack is going to obviously be impactful, and you unbuffable and strip all the buffs from a cleave team. But keep in mind that there are other characters, someone like, Conqueror Lilius, that buffs her team and attack downs, and that's more of a death sentence against cleavers than even this skill is. So what am I trying to say here? And that's the fact that even when you're trying to use this to counter characters, she's not even the best of all time to specifically counter players, because though she does defense pen and though she does do decent amount of damage, as far as I can tell right now, and as far as we could see damage wise, 5.4k is not, well, let's just take a look at the team that she does it into. 5.4k against a team that has like top model Luluka and Sid, that's not one-shotting. Now, of course, this is a terrific spot for left side, but for some cleave teams, if you don't kill them on the spot, like, they're just gonna kill you right after, right? Like, if your team was way squishier on, with Harsetti and stuff, there's a good chance that all you'd have done was, just kill immediately after. Like, if you have Harsetti and speed imprints, for instance, and the Sid and top model Luluka ended up outspeeding for whatever reason, well, then you would just die anyways, which is why I have to bring this all the way back to her skill 2 passive, which is, yes, this is absolutely impactful and really, really frustrating to play around, but it's like a huge roadblock, obstacle, inconvenience that no one, I feel like, is actually going to appreciate once it actually comes to live. It's as good as it sounds. Yes, you do limit the speed of the team and all members in the game to the caster's speed, But there are so many like limitations to how she plays. You can't use combat readiness. Like your units also have to be, you know, speed tuned to her maximum speed. You have to be playing against players that are of that certain speed tuning, and that's like really annoying because she's likely not going to be super impactful against slow teams that, you know, the Crimson Arminds of the world, the Abyssal Eufiends. These characters are never going to actually, well, I guess Abyssal Eufiend may be different because of her S3 passive, but Candy, all these other characters are not really going to affect her that well, assuming, you know, all you're relying on is the S2. Now, having the S3 here is obviously impactful, but this doesn't stop her buffs or her debuffs from being cleansed, which, I mean, be real here, guys. If you press S3 on a character like Harsetti and Laia is in the game, well, what was it all for? What was the point of this? Even as well, you know, if you have like buff stacking, or if you have, well, maybe not buff stacking, but if you have like multiple like cleansers, like this Harsetti like debuff doesn't even do that much. And again, if you don't make use of the S2, well, what you've actually done is kind of made the game more annoying for yourself, and you can't really use speed. I know this was a lot of rambling, and I apologize again. Like, I literally just woke up and I've been talking to people about it, seeing what this character does and how good she is. And long story short, she is hands down impactful. She is crazy, but not in a honestly casual or friendly way. This is actually a lot more thinking that you have to do, and I get it. Thinking for a gacha game is uncommon, though sometimes very good to do if you can. But unlike a character like, I don't know, Knockwall or even New Moon Luna, who I get is very strong, they're not even, like, this character isn't even as easy to play as some of these other characters, or even as straightforward, because it requires you to know exactly what you're doing with the character and impact everyone on the field at the same time. There hasn't been a character like this that has had such negative repercussions potentially on both sides since like Briarwitch Iceria. And Briarwitch Iceria is not even like inherently a bad character. You just don't pick revivers, right? This by comparison is you can't pick any character that wants to be fast. That's like a much more broad kind of character selection, or like a ideology behind a character, which is why I think this is a little bit concerning. Again, I'm struggling whether or not I want to say this character is problematic, but it feels like making a character that has such a game-changing effect is troublesome. Definitely worrying. I don't know if I would want. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say a mistake, but it's something in my stomach. I know she's not out, so I'll hold like hard reserve, or like reserve super hard judgments before I go forward with it. But like, this is looking to be like a mistake level character, and it doesn't seem good for anyone on either side. It seems like people are gonna have to pre-ban this character if you don't want to have to deal with this nonsense of speed tuning. And I guess if you're like, if you're a speed, or if you're a slow player that can make her work already, then maybe she's the one for you. But it just seems like she's very frustrating and annoying to play with in general, unless if you're going to play a bunch of slow characters. And even for slow players, like you can't, again, unless if you're like 300 speed, like if you're 250 speed, guys, like your Laia is going to be like super slow too. Understand that. And of course, she is also at the mercy of a character like New Moon Luna. So do with that what you will, but that's also speed RNG. Like, it's terrible. It feels very weird and wacky to play around. Anyways, yeah, that's Harsetti. We were wrong. I'm sorry. I thought, you know, most people thought that the leaked kit was real. Obviously was not the case. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe, stay healthy. Check out the rest of my socials. Oh man, what is this character? All right. Anyways, goodbye.